Welcome to Pro Football First 50 Years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. I'm strictly talking the first 50 years here, 1920 to 1970. Now, I mean, you can go online, especially if you're going to go back to a game from the 20s or the 30s. I mean, yeah, you can find the score of the game, who won, who lost, who scored a touchdown, how far a field goal was that someone kicked, what the attendance was, where the game was played at. You might be able to find starting lineups for each team, but exactly what happened during the game. Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Now, a little news flash here for you. Ain't no fancy videos or nothing like that. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes, so if that's all right with you. Let's get it on. And today's game, exhibition game, but my goodness, how the mighty have fallen. The Detroit Lions exhibition game at versus the Los Angeles Rams at Folsom Stadium, Colorado, August 8th, 1959 is where the Colorado Buffaloes played their football at. I mean, back then there was a lot of teams that they played a lot of neutral site games, and this would be one of them. Interestingly, though, as I'll show you in just a minute, the Lions would play 7 preseason games. The Rams would only play 6. But after this game, the Rams played all their preseason games at home. Just odd. I mean, the schedule is just very, very odd. The Lions would play 7 preseason games. The Rams would play, as I said, 6. Rams would play this one, then they would have a week off, and then they would play 5 more games after all at the Memorial Coliseum. But getting back to how the mighty have fallen, I mean, this just in the Western Division, these wind up being the worst 2 teams. Now, if you go back to 45, I mean, from 45 to 57, these guys were in 8 championship games. 4 each. Or 5. I mean, well, let's count. The Lions would be in the 52, 53, 54, and 57 championship games. If you go back to when the Rams were in Cleveland, they were in the 45 championship game. They would be in the 49, 50, 51, and the 55 championship. So, wow. So from 1945 to 1957, these 2 teams would be in 9 championship games. This was not a good year for either one of them. Obviously, they both had some high hopes, but nothing can be farther from the truth for either one of these teams. Sid Gilman, this would be his final season with the Rams. He would step down, but he would have a very successful career in the AFL. The Rams wouldn't start being good until 66 when George Allen would take over. They would go to the playoffs 2 times, 67 and 69. And then once again, when Chuck Knox started taking over, they would take 1973. They would just rule their division for the rest of the 70s. So, and with the Lions, after this season, they had a couple of nice seasons in the 60s. They were the only team to beat the 62 Green Bay Packers, one of the greatest teams of all time. That was on the 62. The Thanksgiving Day Massacre, as it's known. They wouldn't go back to the playoffs until 1970. One of my all-time favorite playoff games, when they would lose to the Dallas Cowboys 5-0. So, I mean, pretty much, the rest of the 60s, I mean, they're still waiting for a championship. They won the 57 championship, 59-14 over the Browns, and they're still waiting. So let's take a look here at the each team's schedule. I mean, we started with the Lions. I mean, the Lions just very, very. Lions had a decent preseason, but after that, boy, my goodness. Once again, that was only preseason. But if you look here, right? In newsflash, this would be a rare tie. I mean, look, what do they have? All right, so we start right here. All right, so what are they? 1, 2, 3. They were 5-1-1 in exhibition now for preseason, whatever you want to call it. But then you look after this. I mean, they started off 0-4. They'd win one. They lost one. They tied. Then they won one. Then they lost a couple. Then they won. I mean, as we see, 3-8-1 was the Lions' record. I mean, not very good at all. I mean, it was so bad for them. I mean, the only two teams they beat were two horrible teams. They would beat during the regular season. They would beat the Rams 17-7. They would beat the Rams again 23-17, and then they would beat the Cardinals, who were a horrible team, 45-21, and that was it. If we look here with the Rams, as I said here, I mean, with actually, if you look at the preseason, right, they played the Rams, they played the Cardinals, they played the Browns, they played the Giants, the Eagles, the Browns again, and the Redskins. So they actually played the Browns 2 times in preseason. And that's crazy. But you look here, I mean, they played a home game here in preseason, another home game here in preseason, but then they played in Toledo at the Glass Bowl. Then they played a home game here. Then they played in Akron, Ohio, at the Rubber Bowl. Then they played, obviously Boulder, Colorado, this game in Folsom Stadium. Then they played against the Cardinals in Norman, Oklahoma, at Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. I mean, they were kind of all over the place. We look at the Rams here, but you'll notice here, I mean, they played 7 preseason games. The Rams played this one. Let's zoom in. All right. Then they had a week off, August 8th, and then they would play again until August 21st. So they played 6. But you'll notice they played this one in Boulder, Colorado. There we go. All right. And then the rest of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're all at home, Memorial Coliseum. Then they would start off the regular season against the Giants. They would lose that one in Memorial Coliseum. So after this game, they played 1, 2, 3, 4. They played 6 straight games at home. Crazy. But, I mean, if you look here, they started off not too bad. Once again, they didn't do too bad an exhibition season, but once again, it was exhibition. They had a tie, then they had a loss, then they won, then they lost, and they had two wins. So they were 3-2-1 in exhibition. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not too bad. But you'll see, all right, they lost their first 2. Then they won. They won. And they didn't even win a home game during the regular season. The only 2 wins they had were both on the road. They beat, obviously, the Bears, who finished 8-4, and they beat the Packers with Vince Lombardi. I mean, they killed the Packers. 45-6. But it was on the road. After this, then they lost the rest of their games, all on row. And then, of course, then after they lost, this was on a Saturday, final game of the season against the Colts. The Colts won 45-26 and sewn up the Western Division, where they would want they won the championship of the division, and then we're going to the Colts. They'll go on to win the 1959 championship game over the New York Giants. And after this game, Sid Gilman stepped down. I'm not sure if they asked him to step down, if it was a mutual kind of thing or exactly what, but Sid Gilman was no longer the coach. So, but I mean, both teams had some high hopes going into the season, but boy, nothing could be further from the truth. So this game wound up in a tie, and they played out in Folsom Stadium. So let's go to good old Wikipedia and see what Folsom Stadium's got. What's up, buddy? All right, Folsom Stadium. Where are we at here? I got a lot of tabs open up here. Here we go. All right. Folsom Field. Ooh. Outdoor stadium. Located on the campus of the University of Colorado in Boulder, Colorado, is the home of the Colorado Buffaloes. Opened in 1924. So it's been around for a while. The horseshoe-shaped stadium is a traditional north-south configuration open to the north. The university's athletic administration center, named after the 1950s head coach Dale Ward, I guess, Dow, is located at the north end. Apparently, the field returned to artificial turf in 2025. Sits over a mile high. Folsom Field is the third highest stadium in FBS college football, behind only Wyoming and Air Force. So you got, they talk about, the Mile High Stadium out in Denver. Yep. Oh, yeah. Certainly advantage, big time, if you're used to the air out there. Now we got here, right? I mean, look at that. Folsom Field in 1924 during a game against Utah. Let's see here. Gamble Field was the home of the Colorado football for 2 decades. Through the first game of the 1924 season, opened as Colorado Stadium on October 11th. Folsom Field has been the continuous home of Buffalo football. Through the 2021 season, the Buffs have a home record of 323, 181, and 14. When opened in 1924, the horseshoe-shaped stadium had a capacity of 26,000. A major expansion in 1956 raised the height of the stadium with a new seating capacity of 45,000. And let's see, in this game here, what did they have here? They only had 18,742. So this was far from a sellout. Let's see, the removal of the running track in 1967 added 6,000 more seats. Playing surface from 24 to 1970, the playing surface at Folsom Field was natural grass. In the summer of 1971, AstroTurf was installed, and the first game played on the new surface was a 56-13 win over Wyoming on September 18th. Let's see. Obviously, it's had many uses for concerts. The Rolling Stones were there, the Grateful Dead. A lot of great concerts. A lot of great concerts were there. The largest crowd for Colorado football at Folsom was 54,972. Here's a good picture of it over here, the east side of the stadium. Very nice stadium. Very, very nice. There, a shot of it over here. I mean, in the background, I see some mountains. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. My father lives out in Colorado, so it's obviously some of the views from Colorado. It's, absolutely amazing. Got some pictures here. Let's see here. All right, where are we at here? There we go. This is cool here. Got a program here from Colorado versus Washington at Folsom Field. Here we go. It's Folsom. Fortunately, there we go. Folsom Field. Well, a lot of these pictures are very, very small. And these pictures kind of big. Here's one here. There we go. Folsom. Here we go. Is this so a lot of these pictures are just, there we go, I guess, right? Folsom Field. I'm not sure what year this is. Is this it? this one of them there? There we go. Nice little aerial view. Unfortunately, a lot of when I click on a lot of these pictures, they just wind up being very, very small. There we go. Obviously, as the years have gone by, with the expansion, of extra seats and all that and everything, it's certainly taken on a different look. Let's see here. Anything? This is 2026. Folsom Field 2026. This. Oh, here we go. This is finishing new turf at Folsom Field. So they're putting a new turf in. I'm not a turf guy. Football is supposed to be played outdoors in the weather elements, which is this. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely. It's supposed to be played on grass, but anyway. I thought this was something. But as you see, Folsom Field, another show. And beautiful, beautiful stadium. But I said this one here did not have a lot of people, a little less than 19,000, so not quite capacity. So we got some pregame stuff here going on. So we'll go to the August 8th, 1959 edition of the Pueblo Chieftain. Pueblo Chieftain, August 8th, 1959. So let's go here. All right. Rams and Lions clash opens the Colorado football season. Football shoves its way into the Colorado sports scene Saturday, a month or so earlier than usual, with two professional teams colliding in an exhibition game. The Rams and the Lions will get rolling at 2:30 p.m. About 20,000 are expected. That's about right. To pay their way into Folsom Stadium for the first practice game by either club in preparing for the coming National Football League chase. Now here it says Folsom Stadium. On Wikipedia it says Folsom Field. I put on the thumbnail Folsom Stadium because in Pro Football Archives that's what it says. So, but here it also says Folsom Stadium. But it's the same stadium. Whether on Wikipedia it says Folsom Field. But the proceeds, though, for the game will go to the Air Force Academy Foundation, a private organization seeking to raise money for additional athletic facilities at the service school. Coach Sid Gilman's Rams may be the favorite chiefly because maybe the favorites. Because they obtained Holly Madsen, a speedy back in a trade with the Cardinals. They traded 9 players to the Cardinals to get Holly Madsen, and didn't work out for either team. The 210-pound Madsen will be at left halfback in the Rams offensive platoon with Frank Ryan, 189 pounds at quarterback. Clendon Thomas, 191 pounds at right half, and Joe Marconi, 225 pounds at fullback. Lions starting backfield on offense will probably show Earl Morrill, 200 pounds at quarterback, Howard Hopalong Cassidy, 184 pounds at left half, Dan Lewis, 200 pounds at right half, and John Henry Johnson, 215 pounds at fullback. I mean, yeah, you got Ollie Madsen and John Henry Johnson. You got yourself a pair of phenomenal running backs. The Lions coach is George Wilson. Each team is a former Colorado State University player on the squad. Jim David with Detroit and Don Burrows with the Rams. Each plays on defense. That catch me out. All right. Well, then what do we got? We got the Pasadena Independent, the August 8th, 1959 edition of the Pasadena Independent. Let me share this here. So I got some pregame kind of like one paper from the Colorado aspect, another one from the Los Angeles aspect of it, and the other one's from like the Detroit, Michigan, aspect of the pregame, shall we? What's the pre-talk here? What we got here? All right, so the August 8th, 1959 of the Pasadena Independent. All right, Matson gets big chance with the Rams. Try it again. Ollie Matson, with 7 seasons behind him in the National Pro Football League, has his first chance this year to operate with a first-class club. I guess they didn't have to not talking too highly about the Chicago Cardinals where he came from, and he may make gridiron history. The 29-year-old San Francisco athlete traded to the Los Angeles Rams by the Chicago Cardinals for 3/4 of a football team has a quiet confidence about his own ability, and he's impressed with his new teammates. In training with the Rams here, Matson has nothing to say against the Cardinals, but it was obvious he was happy to be away from the ragtail last-place club. The Cardinals were a fine bunch of fellows, he said. Then he added with obvious relish, "This is a fine team, the Rams. I'm looking forward to my best season." Matson, who was a hero to Northern California fans when he played for the University of San Francisco, was not bothered about the prospect of appearing in what San Franciscans look on as the enemy camp in Los Angeles. "I'm glad to be back on the coast closer to home," he said. Matson reported to the Ram camp with the rookies July 16th, a week before the veterans, so he could familiarize himself with Coach Sid Gilman's system. That's kind of the same thing as it is nowadays, right? The rookies show up early, like about a week earlier, and then the veterans show up a week later. "The only change for me coming from the Cardinals," he said, "is the system. Football is football," which is true. Running, passing, tackling, right? Football is football, no matter where you play it. "I'm having a little trouble learning the system, but that's natural. Last year, we had a new system in Chicago, and it was the same thing." Standing at 6'2" and weighing 210 pounds, Matson looks almost slight among the Ram behemoth linemen, but he described himself as in great physical condition. A fullback for all of his career, Matson may find himself called on for work at other backfield positions with the Rams, who were tied for second in the Western Division of the National League last season, and hope he can help win them a championship. I mean, it's just they were tied for second, and now they're going to be tied, well, not tied, they're going to be in that last place this season. I mean, bad year for the Rams. "I'm really learning 3 positions with the Rams," he said: fullback, halfback, and flanker back. Ram coaches are just as confident as Matson about his ability to make good, and they figure he's well worth the 8 players and a draft choice he cost the team. So 9 players altogether, said Ram offensive coach Joe Madero. "We're not worried about Matson. This boy will do more than all right. All he needs is a little daylight in that line, and swish, he'll be through the hole and out in the open. He has a tendency to turn in after he gets through the line. We want him to vary that and head for the sidelines, at least some of the time." In the Rams' first full dress scrimmage, Matson indicated he is catching on. He averaged 8 yards per carry and cracked through for 33 yards on his longest shot yardage, which is more than all right. All right, then we got, what else we got here? But then we have the August 8th, 1959 edition of the Times Herald. All right, which is the Detroit side of things. All right, August 8th, 1959, the Times Herald. All right. And the Lions get a look at Ollie Matson. Ramblin' Ollie Matson, the most valuable hunk of flesh in pro football history, makes his debut with the Los Angeles Rams today in the National Football League exhibition season curtain raiser in the United States. Traded to the Rams for almost an entire team, 9 players by the Chicago Cardinals, Matson steps into the left halfback position as Los Angeles meets the Detroit Lions at Boulder, Colorado. It will go into the books as the first all-NFL exhibition class of the 1959 season. The Cardinals already have played one contest, but they beat a Canadian team, Toronto, north of the border. Matson, in his 7th year in the play-for-pay ranks, was obtained by the Rams to bolster a weak running attack, which had placed practically an entire offensive load on the Los Angeles quarterback. The former University of San Francisco speedster should be able to rectify that situation and make the passing of Billy Wade more effective. Last year, Matson led the league in kickoff returns, averaging 35.5 yards a return. Whew. He's a fast, swivel hip runner who also can bowl his way against a tough defensive line. He has been among the leaders in rushing since he entered the league. Lions coach George Wilson believes his sophomore crop matches any other group in the National Football League. He is especially high on offensive tackle John Gordy and defensive tackle Bill Glass. Gordy returned to pro ranks this year after sitting out one season while assisting in the coaching at the University of Nebraska. Gordy was ready to give up pro football, but decided to give it another try. Wilson helped Gordy change his mind, and now the coach feels Gordy has been one of the most outstanding players in training camp. He's almost 20 pounds heavier now at 255 pounds than when he played with us in 1957, and he handles the weight well, said Wilson. The Lions are depending upon Gordy to handle the tackle spot left vacant by the retirement of veteran Lou Creekmore. Glass, the divinity student from Baylor, was switched to defensive tackle from offensive center, and Wilson believes he will be one of the league's best at his new position. That gives the Lions 2 youngsters at the tackle spot, with Glass pairing with sometime wrestler Alex Karras, a future Hall of Famer, a hulking giant from Iowa. Other sophomores counted on heavily in the Detroit's team rebuilding are offensive backs Ken Webb and Dan Lewis, and Steve Junker, Jim Gibbons, and Tom Reichlich, linebacker Wayne Walker, defensive back Dave Witzel, and Karras. Junker apparently is fully recovered from a knee operation, and Gibbons was one of the team's strongest performers last year after he was obtained from the Cleveland Browns. The Lions hope Lewis has overcome his bad case of first-year fumbleitis. The former Wisconsin sprinter was used sparingly in his rookie year, but averaged 5.2 yards in 25 rushes. All right, so let's now get into the action here. We'll start with the Los Angeles Times. We'll go to the August 9th, 1959 edition of the Los Angeles Times. All right, here we go. Los Angeles Times. Lions tie the Rams 20-20 with a last quarter rally. I got to refresh here. And that is, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, the World Series. Oh, I'm sorry, not the World Series, but we playing where the World Series will be played at in 59. 90,000. The Dodgers and the White Sox will be playing each other, but I mean, in Memorial Coliseum, Yeah, 90,000. This is where the Dodgers are playing at Memorial Coliseum, where the Rams are playing at 90,751. See a baseball game. Wow. Crazy. I mean, there's like a sea of people. Just crazy. Unbelievable. Okay. Early 14-3 LA lead wiped out by Detroit in opener at Boulder. After trailing for more than 3 quarters here this afternoon, the Detroit Lions came alive in the final quarter to tie the Los Angeles Rams 20-20 in the first preseason skirmish of the season for the 2 Western Conference members of the National Football League. And I said, I mean, both these teams had high aspirations for this thing because I said 2 years prior, the Lions won the championship. They blew out the Browns 59-14. The hero of the game, which started in 85-degree weather before a Folsom Stadium crowd of 18,742, was Jerry Perry, veteran tackle from California, who was cut loose by the Rams in 1953. With only 35 seconds of the contest remaining, the 240-pound Perry booted a 32-yard field goal to deadlock the score against a team that was favored by 6 points. Wow. Statistically, the Rams should have won, but with no less than 3 gift opportunities thrown into their laps in the second half, they couldn't once capitalize on the breaks. Twice in the third quarter, for example, Rams defenders Will Sherman and Darrell Rogers intercepted passes. After Sherman's theft, Jack Morris missed a field goal from the 35, and he missed another from the same distance after Rogers' pickoff. And here's the scoring, right? The Rams went up 7-0, then 7-3. Then the Rams went up 14-3. Then the Lions closed it to 14-10. Rams kicked the field goal. Then the Lions scored a touchdown, make it 17-17. Then the Rams kicked the field goal, make it 20-17. Then Perry's 32-yarder with like about 27 seconds left to go in the game. Ties it up. Luckily, Morris made 2 of 3 field goal attempts in the final period for the only scoring the Rams were permitted in the last 2 quarters after they had tallied 14 points in the first half. The final field goal missed by Morris came after rookie. Okay, so let's go to the next page of the Los Angeles Times, the August 9th, 1959 edition of the Los Angeles Times. Where are we at? Here we go. All right, so the final field goal missed by Morris came after rookie Joe Kelly. Trying to refresh it here. Joe Kelly had recovered a Hopalong Cassidy fumble on the Detroit 33. In 3 efforts, all the Rams could gain were 2 yards by Ali Matson. Morris's field goal attempt was partially deflected from the 38. Jerry Reichow quarterbacked the Lions the first 2 periods and was able to get them no better than 1 field goal as the Rams led at intermission 14-3. Rote called the Lions signals the third quarter and managed 1 touchdown despite his 2 interceptions. In the backfield with Rote were John Henry Johnson and Hopalong Cassidy, a couple of seasoned performers who saw only brief action in the first half. Detroit's third quarterback, and probably their best, Earl Morrall, took over in the final quarter and made things hum to the tune of 10 points. Los Angeles outrushed the foe 164 yards to 130, with Joe Marconi setting the pace with 57 yards and 13 carries. Big man for the Lions was Dan Lewis, who rolled for 29 yards in 6 attempts. The Rams also dominated through the air lanes, 230 yards to 218. Of course, the Rams were out Rams went overhead 35 times as compared to 10 less for the Detroit. Frank Ryan, Coach Still Goodman's second-string quarterback, threw 7 during the first quarter he worked and completed 3 for 42 yards. Bill Wade, who played 3/4 of the game, tossed 28 times and completed 16 for 188 yards and a touchdown. Del Schaffner, an all-pro end, was Wade's main target. He snagged 6 for 108 yards. Del Schaffner was a very good wide receiver. Unfortunately for Ryan, his average was cut down when what appeared to be a cinch completions to Jim Phillips and Clendon Thomas were dropped. Like the Lions, Coach Gilman also dipped heavily into his rookie crop. Ed Meter played the right corner, had several rough chances, but he didn't do badly considering this was his first game since leaving Arkansas Tech. Let's see. Big John Lovetree, a free agent from Compton College, didn't back away from anyone during the time he was allowed to play tackle on defense. This big guy just might be a big surprise package. First time the Rams had the ball after the opening kickoff, they traveled 79 yards in 14 plays to score on Thomas's 9-yard scoot around left end. That's a nice opening drive right there. Taking the ensuing kickoff, the Lions returned the ball from their own 31 to the Rams' 30 in 6 plays. Perry, excuse me, then booted his first of 2 field goals from the 37. Before the first quarter expired, the Rams started another march, and Wade passed 14 yards to Joe Marconi for what turned out to be the Rams' final touchdown of the game. Morris converted after each goal. Neither team threatened seriously for the rest of the half. Detroit went 80 yards in 4 plays for their first TD midway in the third quarter. A Tobin Road pass to Hopalong Cassidy gobbled up 48 yards down to the 20. Lewis then went the distance around left end. Perry's conversion narrowed the gap. Rams 14, Lions 10. Next time the Rams took over on their own 20, they went down to the Detroit 12. Schaffner caught 3 passes on this drive for 18, 12, and 9 yards. Wade then pumped a pass to Thomas to the 8, and with 4th down coming up, Morris kicked the first of 2 field goals from the 15. Safety man Don Burrows had a miserable time keeping off line receivers next time Detroit had the ball. Morrill threw once to Perry Richards, which fell incomplete, but Burrows was detected interfering, and the play went for 25 yards. Then Morrill lofted a pitch to Cassidy, who had managed to get behind Burrows on the 4-yard line for the Lions' second touchdown. Rams scoring concluded shortly after this when the 3-end offense failed to get any closer than the line 25, and Morris was called to kick a 32-yard field goal, which was good. And the count now stood at Rams 20, Lions 17, with half a quarter remaining. Next moment of excitement was Perry's game-tying kick. 4 Rams suffered minor injuries. Bill Jobko, linebacker, came out with a minor concussion. Jim Jones caught a Charlie horse. And Lovetree and Rogers dislocated fingers. Ooh. And there's the receiving. Both teams. There's the passing. And you can see where the Rams threw 35 times. Here's the rushing. Lions had a lot of guys running the ball, but nobody, Webb got 26 yards. Lewis got 29. A bunch of other guys got in the teens. And here we got Rams had 21 first downs. The Lions only had 13. Each team had over 300 net yards. So there's the starting teams, I guess, for each team. Offense and defense. And here we go. Joe Marconi, Rams fullback, scores against Detroit at Boulder. 2 lines hidden by Jim Steffen, number 20, make a tackle at the goal line. Teams tied. There you go. The Ram emblem there. The Lions have nothing on their helmet yet. I mean, during this season. All right, now what do we got here? Got the Detroit Free Press. So let's see what the Detroit Free Press says. So the August 9th, 1959 edition of the August Free Press. Let's see what they got here. Bum, 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 bum. All right, here we go. Bum, bum, bum. And as usual, I gotta refresh the page. Lions of old rally, tie Rams 20-20. In spots, they look like our Lions of old, unyielding, raging, and commanding. But in the end, the 2020 tie was what the 1959 Detroit Lions had to accept as they struggled against the Los Angeles Rams Saturday before 18,742 nestled at the foot of the Rockies in Folsom Field. 32-yard field goal by Jerry Perry, his second of the game with only 27 seconds to play, lifted the Lions into the deadlock after victory had escaped them by a hair's breadth. It was an upset at that. In their exhibition debut, the Lions plainly were not as far advanced in training as the Rams, who had a 10-day head start. Recognizing this, the wise men made the Rams 13-point favorites. Wow. Yet, Detroit spotted the Rams, this plus a halftime of play with a third-string quarterback and a rookie-studded lineup gave them a 14-3 lead, then flashed back in the second half with the vigor of the champion Lions of 1957. This was supposed to be little more than a glamorized scrimmage, but it soon developed into more than that. George Wilson inserted his veterans in the second half, and the dull exhibition erupted into an exciting struggle. Charlie Ian and John Henry Johnson narrowly escaped fist fights. Oh, my goodness. Imagine that. Fisticuffs during a football game. Narrowly escaped fist fights with the Rams. Wilson stormed and stopped on the sidelines when victory beckoned. When it was done, the Lions could be satisfied that they had accomplished more than was expected. Perry's kicking was a key factor, of course, but the work of Howard Hopalong Cassidy saved the Lions from defeat. Cassidy snared 2 vital throws, one setting up the Lions' first touchdown, the other producing the second. On both, the magnificent 180-pounder mocked the Ram defenders with cunning fakes. The Lions opened the game with Jerry Reichow at quarterback and their offensive and defensive units sprinkled with rookies. This was to be their first test. Some performed credibly. Still, the Rams were able to advance handily against the inexperienced unit and struck for touchdowns on their first 2 efforts. And between them came Perry's first field goal, a 37-yard boot, which resulted in a 14-3 halftime score. The Rams used second-string quarterback Frank Ryan in the first quarter, but with him, they had Ollie Matson, the ex-Cardinal bruiser. Matson rushed for 33 yards and 3 carries. The Rams' first push, and the third of these landed the Rams on the Detroit 15. From the 9-yard line 2 plays later, Clendon Thomas, the former University of Oklahoma Flash, turned left end, shook off tackles by Lions rookies Ron Jones and Carl Smith, and sprinted to the end zone. Detroit came right back for its field goal. Reichow, apparently trapped, skirted to his left and then arched a long toss to Ken Webb, who rolled 43 yards down to the Ram 37. It was from here that Perry kicked his field goal. Ryan got the Rams started then with a 27-yard screen pass to Thomas, which reached the Detroit 40. As the second period began, Billy Wade took over the quarterbacking and finished the push with a 14-yard scoring pass to Joe Marconi. The Lions never escaped their own ground for let's go to the next page of the Sunday, August 9th, 1959 edition of the Detroit Free Press. All right, here we go. So this says here, the Lions never escaped their own ground for the remainder of the half. Oh, and knew that was going to happen. Remainder of the half. After the intermission, Roque came in and briefly was a forlorn figure. 2 of his first 3 passes were intercepted. Each time, however, the more stubborn veteran defense balked the Rams and forced field goal kicks. Twice, Jack Morris missed from the 35-yard line. Well, you start missing from the 35-yard line nowadays, you ain't got a job. I'll tell you that much. It was at this point that Cassidy combined with Roque to lift the Lions from their lethargy. From the Detroit 32, Cassidy sprinted up the right sideline, stopped suddenly, and grabbed Roque's rifle throw at midfield. He sidestepped Morris and raced down to the Ram 21 before he was caught. On the first play, Danny Lewis, the sophomore halfback, turned left end, smashed over 2 Rams, and swooped into the end zone with Detroit's first touchdown of the season. It was 14-10 at that point. The Rams whipped to the Detroit 13 late in the third period before Terry Barham smashed Matson for a 12-yard loss and brought about another field goal kick by Morris. This one was good from the 15 for a 17-10 lead. A major break came for the Lions then as Morrill, taking over in the fourth period at quarterback, sought to launch a drive. He threw deep to Perry Richards, who was bumped by Rams' Don Burrows. An interference penalty gave the Lions a 36-yard advance and a first down on the 25. Morrill lost back to the 40 on a fumble. Then Cassidy streaked down the right sideline, faked Burrows so thoroughly that the Ram back turned his back to the play, then took Morrill's long throw over his shoulder at the 1-yard line and stepped into the end zone. It tied the score at 17. Los Angeles got in close enough for Morris to kick his 32-yard field goal for a 20-17 lead. A fumble by Cassidy a minute later gave Morris another chance from the 38, but he muffed this kick, his third failure of the game. So, I mean, you missed 3 field goals from in the 30s. Whoo! Nowadays, whoo! You might as well just start flipping burgers at Chuck E. Cheese or something. With time running out, then Morrill began the last Lions drive. He passed to Webb for a 24-yard advance and to end Jim Gibbons for 15 yards. The Lions reached Rams 30. Here, Lewis broke around left end to race to the end zone, but a penalty for illegal formation canceled the score. Morrill hit John Henry Johnson with a pass on the 17, and with the game in the last minute, tension mounted, but Lewis was smeared for a 7-yard loss. A third down pass to Steve Junker on the 5 squirted from the end's hands, and the Lions' best chance for victory was gone. Here then came Perry, a defensive utility man, filling in for Jim Martin, the Lions' ace place kicker, to boot him the vital 3 points which saved the Lions from defeat. Lion notes. Considering everything, said Lion coach George Wilson, he was pleased with the work of the Lion rookies and veterans in their debut 2020 tie with the Los Angeles Rams. Wilson cited mainly the limited work the Lions have had in training camp at Cranbrook. Considering our plans for the game, Wilson said, we did all right. We intended to play our rookies, and we did. Some of them did well. Wilson saved his applause, however, for two of his sophomore halfbacks, Kenny Webb and Danny Lewis. Lewis scored one of the Lions' 2 touchdowns on a punishing 21-yard run, and Webb was the leading ground gainer. Webb took 4 passes for 88 yards and gained 26 yards in 7 runs. He easily exceeded the output of the Rams' vaulted Ali Matson, who gained 51 yards and 11 carries and 22 yards with 4 pass receptions. Jerry Reichow, who was elected to start the game for the Lions, played the entire first half, connecting on 3 of 9 passes for 70 yards. Tobin Mode, who played the third period, completed 1 of 4 and had 2 intercepted. Phew, my goodness. So let's see what I got. So after 3 quarters, the Lions completed 4 passes out of 13. Earl Morrall outdistanced both. The former Michigan State All-American hit on 6 of 12 passes for 101 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, Earl Morrall was a very good quarterback. He did some starting in his career, but he was a very good backup quarterback. Very good. All right, then what we got here? And then we have the Colorado look at here. We got the Fort Collins Coloradoan. Oh, yeah. The Fort Collins Coloradoan. The August 9th, 1959 edition. Let's see what they got to say on this here. Lions and Rams play the 2020 standoff. We got here. Oh, and of course, how could I guess? We have to refresh the page. There we go. The old Rams helmet there, boy. And of course, I said the Lions they didn't have a logo. Not yet. It was interesting back then. I mean, you start looking. I mean, it's like the Lions didn't have a logo. The Cardinals had a solid white helmet. The Giants had a stripe on their helmet. They had no logo on the side. The Packers didn't have a logo on the side. Just weird, you know. It's odd. But let's see. Despite what looks like a solid wall of charging Rams, Dan Lewis, Detroit's right halfback, picked up 7 yards on this play in the third period of action between the Lions and Rams at Folsom Field at Boulder Saturday. The key to the game was the key block thrown by left tackle Dick Guzman. Guessman, allowing Lewis to get into the Rams secondary. The wall of Ram tacklers are from left to right. Left tackle George Struger, linebacker Clarence Osborne, right tackle John Baker, and right end Lou Michaels. The Rams and Lions played the 2020 tie. Yeah, so somehow, he said he managed to pick up some yards on this one. You got a wall of defenders right here. Crazy. All right. What do we got there? What do we got? Tackle Jerry Perry's 32-yard field goal with 27 seconds remaining pulled the Detroit Lions into a 2020 deadlock with the favored Los Angeles Rams Saturday in a season-opening National Football League exhibition game for both clubs. The Lions, fired up by the brilliant passing of quarterback Earl Morrall, came from behind twice in a wild fourth quarter. Trailing 17-10 early in the final period, Detroit marched 80 yards in 12 plays with Morrall completing one pass after another. Morrall's pitch to Howard, Hop-along Cassidy, was good for the final 40 yards. Perry's conversion squared the game at 17-17. But the Rams would strike back. Favored Los Angeles struck right back, grabbing a 20-17 advantage with 7:20 left when Jack Morris kicked his second field goal, a 32-yarder. Morrall, Cassidy, and Danny Lewis started their passing and running act for the last time with less than 5 minutes remaining. Starting on their own 20, the Lions rolled up 3 straight first downs down to the Rams' 18. Lewis lost 6, Two moral passes failed. Then Perry, a former University of California star, connected for his second field goal. The Rams tried desperately to win even in those last 27 seconds, but the best they could do was to reach the Detroit 47 on 3 straight pass completions by quarterback Billy Wade. Morris tried 5 field goals, but only made 2. Ooh. Wade completed 16 out of 23, or is it 28? 20, I think it's 28. For 188 yards for Los Angeles. The Rams' leading ground gainers were Joe Marconi, who carried 13 times for 57 yards, and Ali Matson 11 times for 51. So, I mean, you figure between the two, they ran 24 times for 108 yards. So that's over, it's basically like 4.5 yards a carry. Not too bad. Once again, it was just preseason. It was Matson's first game appearance for the Rams since a trade sent him to Los Angeles from the Cardinals. He played less than half the game. So in less than half the game, Matson got 51 yards. So imagine if he played the whole game, he would have had 100 yards possibly. Morrill tossed 12 passes for Detroit and completed 6 for 101 yards, the big one being the 40-yarder to Cassidy in the last period to enable the Lions to get even for the first time. Los Angeles dominated the first half. The Rams needed only 14 plays to march 79 yards following the opening kickoff. Halfback Clendon Thomas, the former Oklahoma ace, swung around left end for the touchdown from 9 yards out. Morris made good on the first of his 2 conversions. The Lions then started a drive of their own with the ensuing kickoff, chewing up 40 yards before the effort stalled on the Rams' 29. Perry put Detroit in the scoring column with a 37-yard field goal. But behind Wade passing, the Rams rambled 80 yards late in the second quarter for their second touchdown. Wade ended the 12-yard drive by whipping a pass good for 14 yards to Joe Marconi. Morris' conversion gave Los Angeles a 14-3 halftime edge. Detroit swept the Rams off their feet during one series of plays in the third. The Lions ate up 80 yards in just 4 plays, the big gainer being Tobin Rhodes' perfect pass to Cassidy on a play covering 47 yards. Lewis tore around left end for the last 21 yards. Perry's kick left Detroit trailing 14-10. All right. So that's that. And then I got one more here. I think that's all on here. All right. Then I got, let's see here. One more, a little bit more here. Share the screen. All right. Got it somewhere here. All right. Here we go. The Detroit News. Perry's kick saves the Lions. That season is here again. Ken Webb, number 34, lower right here, plunges the ball to the Los Angeles 29-yard line during the first quarter action at Boulder, Colorado, Saturday as Detroit Lions opened their exhibition season. Webb is being tackled by Les Richter. Other players in the action are Jack Morris, Jim Jones, both of the Rams, Charlie and number 50, the center of the Lions. Here's right here. All right, so Jerry Perry, who hasn't missed one yet for the Detroit Lions, placed a 32-yard field goal in the last 35 seconds to give his dogged teammates a 20-20 tie with the favored Los Angeles Rams before 18,742 spectators today at Folsom Field. The 29-year-old Perry, a Ram cast-off in 1953, who has become a stalwart defensive lineman in Detroit, booted his second field goal of the game and 6th in his Detroit career on a sunny 85-degree afternoon in the Rockies. The Lions spotted the Rams an early 14-3 lead with makeshift defensive lineup. Took a great deal of the glamour out of the West Coast Wonder team. The Rams had to settle for 2 field goals in the last 40 minutes of the game. Meanwhile, Tobin Rhodes sprung Danny Lewis loose for a 20-yard touchdown run in the third period. Earl Morrill picking up the Lions at quarterback In the fourth period, fired a 40-yard touchdown pass to Hopalong Cassidy to tie the score. At 17-17 with 12 minutes left in the game. The Rams then countered with a 32-yard field goal by Jack Morris, who missed three others of comparable distance in the game. So the Rams, if they had a decent field goal kicker, certainly could have won this game. Morrill came pounding back with the Lions in the last 5 minutes. Coach George Wilson let him take the big gamble with 56 seconds remaining and the ball on the Rams' 20. It was 4th down and 2. John Henry Johnson smashed Drew down to the 17. Here the Lions could make no headway in their simultaneous battle against the Rams and the clock. On 4th down, Perry hit the ball good with Morrill holding for the decisive field goal. Perry replaced Jim Martin late in 1958 as Detroit's place kicker on attempts under 40. Aha. Under 40 yards. Aside from 6 straight for the Lions, he once kicked a field goal against the Rams for a service team in California. That makes his career record 7 for 7. The Lions clearly earned the tie despite a deficit in most phases of the statistics. The Rams had a 21-13 edge in first downs. In total offense, the Rams rolled up 381 yards to 332 by the Lions. Detroit completed 10 of 25 passes. With 218 yards, the rushing total was 114 yards. The Lions made many more mistakes than the Rams. They fumbled away the ball once and twice yielded to the Rams on interception, both against Tobin Rote. But the Detroit defense fought back doggedly against the team that is co-favored with the championship Baltimore Colts for the Western Division title. Boy, that would prove to be really wrong by the end of the season. Ollie Matson, the great new threat of the Rams, gained 51 yards on 11 carries. So what is that, about 4.5 yards a carry? Once again, it's just preseason. He caught 4 passes for another 22 yards. So, for a half a game, he had 73 yards in half a game. That gave Ollie 73 yards. This was mighty good, of course, but it was surpassed by an unheralded member of the Detroit backfield. Second-year man, Ken Webb. Webb accounted for 114 yards. He caught 4 passes for 88 yards and carried the ball 7 times for 26 yards. Wilson made lavish use of rookies and new men early in the game. After the Rams shot ahead, the Detroit coach sent out largely a veteran defensive unit. They held the Rams in check. You can't blame a coach for junking his game plan when he has a chance to tie or beat the Rams. Wilson used the 3 Detroit quarterbacks exactly as he said he would. Jerry Reichow, playing the entire first half, he completed 3 of 9 passes for 70 yards. He had no interceptions and no touchdowns. Rote was in command in the third period. Morrill, however, was the class of the 3, just as he has been in training camp at Cranbrook School. Cranbrook School. In the fourth period, he completed 6 of 12 passes for 101 yards. He had no interceptions and 1 touchdown. And once again, there's the scoring right there. So, as you can see here, when you start looking at, both the papers, without, it said you saw one talking about the Rams possibly being co-favored to win the Western Division with the Colts. And I said the Colts won. The Colts weren't in first place, but the Rams were at the bottom. The Western Division was very good that year. The Packers finished 7-5 with, of course, newly acquired coach Vince Lombardi. The 49ers started 6-1, but they fumbled their lead away, fumbled. And they would go from 6-1 to 7-5, but still, that is 7-5 record. The Bears started really slow, but they would finish 8-4, and of course, then the Baltimore Colts would finish 9-3. But also with that, the Lions, just 2 years prior, they blew out the Browns 59-14 in the 57 championship game. So you figure they still had some, aspirations of, having a very successful season once again. I mean, between these two teams, they won 5 games all year. So, and how appropriate, I guess, this game between the two of them, although being preseason, wind up in a tie with neither team winning. So that's the way it was on this date, August 8th, 1959, as the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Rams would invade Colorado at Folsom Field or Folsom Stadium, whatever you want to call it, in pro football's first 50 years. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.